Gotta be fucking kidding.
SupaNova.
What's happening, guys? SupaNova here, back with another video. And before we get into it, just a reminder, I'm doing a giveaway of a PlayStation 5 Disc Edition. All you have to do to be eligible is become a patron at the $10 level. I'll link to that in the description, and a winner will be selected early November so I can ship it out before Christmas. Now, back to the video. Now, I originally wasn't going to review Scorn, just because I didn't think that a lot of people were interested in it. But I have seen, I wouldn't say a large amount of people, but I have seen groups of people who are curious as to what exactly is this game. There isn't exactly a whole lot of marketing for the game or anything that really tells you what this game is. So a lot of people are confused as to what is Scorn, how does it play, is it a first-person shooter, is it survival horror, like what the fuck is this game? So in this video, I'm going to help you understand exactly what Scorn is, and then give you my thoughts and opinions on it. Now, to answer the main question, which I think for most people is, what is Scorn? If I had to describe this game, I think the best way to describe it would be an atmospheric environmental puzzle game. Because that's essentially what Scorn is. That's really all it is. Yeah, it looks like you have guns in this game, and you do kind of have guns, but I would not say this game is a first-person shooter. Yeah, there are enemies and creatures, but I would not say it is a survival horror game. It is very much like I said, it is an atmospheric environmental puzzle game, because the majority of the time what you are doing is solving these giant, vast environmental puzzles. Why I say it's an atmospheric environmental puzzle game is because, well, look at it, right? I think the first thing that people notice when they see anything regarding Scorn is the art style and the design influence, right? And these developers, they're not shy about the fact that they were inspired by two specific artists. One is from Poland, and I'm not even going to try to fucking pronounce his name because it looks like this. So, yeah, that guy. And then the other is Swiss artist H.R. Giger. I'm saying Giger, I've heard it pronounced Giger, I'm going to go with Giger. So H.R. Giger, and if that name isn't familiar to you, his work absolutely fucking will be, because H.R. Giger is the man that designed the Xenomorph, aka the alien from Alien, Aliens, Alien vs. Predator, and countless other film, video games, comic books, and what have you. And his inspiration is seen right away. I mean, when you look at the levels of Scorn, they are very reminiscent of movies like Aliens or Prometheus, right? They feel very much like sets out of those movies. And I would say that's honestly Scorn's biggest strength, is that art style, that influence they've taken. And they've done a good job translating that into their game, right? Taking these environments, these puzzle layouts, and throwing that art style onto it. They've done a really, really good job of doing that. And honestly, I don't think it's hyperbole to say that I've never in my life played a game that looks like Scorn, right? And I think that's the thing that is the main draw for people is looks. I remember when I first saw this game announced at an Xbox event a few years ago, I was like, yo, what the fuck is this? Right? Like its art style and the way that things look visually immediately grabbed my attention, and I was immediately interested in what exactly this fucking game was. So yeah, that I would say is probably the game's largest strength, and is the most remarkable thing about this game. Unfortunately, everything else about the game I find unremarkable. The puzzles are decent, right? I wouldn't say they are fantastic or amazing. The puzzles are decent, and they are, you know, not the easiest puzzles, but they're also not the hardest puzzles. They're just a lot of trial and error type puzzles, because the other thing about this game is that it tells you nothing. And when I say nothing, I literally mean fucking nothing. Like, people that play Souls games think that those games are cryptic because they don't tell you anything, and you kind of have to use little bits and pieces of scraps of paper that you find all around the world and kind of piece together the story of what's happening. Well, in Scorn, you don't even get that. Like, there is zero dialogue said to you in the entire game. There is no speaking in the entire game. There's no text to read in the entire game. There's no, oh, let me look at this piece of paper. Oh, here's some information that'll help me piece together the history of what's going on here. No, nothing. There is literally nothing. And not only that, the game doesn't explain mechanics to you. What I mean by that? Well, shit, you'll go up to this weird contraption on the wall and it'll give you some shit that is actually how you heal in the game. But A, it doesn't tell you what the fuck that shit is. B, it doesn't tell you what to do with it. And C, it doesn't even tell you how to do it. As a matter of fact, the only way I even knew that you could heal in this game is because I had to pause because I was having some nerve pain. And when you pause the game, it does bring up a little picture of the Xbox controller and it shows you all of the inputs and what they do. If you're not on the pause screen to look at that, the game at no point ever tells you what to do. It doesn't tell you press this button to heal. It doesn't say press this button to run. It doesn't say press this button to switch your weapons. It doesn't tell you anything. And that's pretty much the same way that Scorn approaches its environmental puzzles. They tell you absolutely nothing. Some games, when they have environmental puzzles, will kind of use like a video clip to kind of show you a clue of where you need to go or a clue of what you're trying to accomplish. Scorn does none of that. You just walk into an area and then there's shit. Right? There's a contraption here, there's a thing on the wall over there, there's a thing over here that I can press, there's this area up here that I can go up to, there's an elevator that'll take me down, there's another elevator that'll take me up, but they don't tell you anything. It's entirely up to you to explore that area, randomly pressing shit and through trial and error solving this environmental puzzle. I'll tell you right now, it is not going to be for everybody. Again, not that the puzzles are hard, because they're not, but they do take time to figure out. And everything is kind of slow. You can't move very fast. Even when you're quote-unquote running, you're still not moving very fast. It's one of these games where you either enjoy the gameplay loop or you don't. I kind of compare it to Death Stranding. Death Stranding is a game where you're really just delivering packages from point A to point B, but the gameplay loop consists of, okay, here's point A, here's where point B is, I need to look at what kind of terrain there is, figure out what shit I need to bring with me, and then, physically get from point A to point B. Some people enjoyed that gameplay loop, some people found it extremely boring and tedious. Scorn is very much the same way. Some people are going to enjoy the gameplay loop in Scorn. Some people are going to find it fucking boring and tedious. And that's just the truth of it, right? I mean, I'm keeping it real. It's not going to be a game for everybody. Now, you do have weapons in the game and occasionally some enemies. But like I said before, this is not a first-person shooter. This is an environmental puzzle game. And the shooting mechanics, if I'm being honest, are very, very poor. They are not good. The shooting does not feel good. But again, like I said, this is not a first-person shooter. Honestly, if they were to remove the shooting elements altogether and the enemies altogether, Scorn would pretty much be the same game. Like, I'm being honest. If you were to remove those elements altogether, Scorn would be the same fucking game. It would just be a game that you would complete faster because you're not having to deal with the enemies or with the weapons, because you don't really see enemies all that often. And then when you do, you can honestly just run past them. I found that it is easier and faster to just run past the enemies than to try to deal with them. Especially in the beginning. Like, the first, again, weapon that you get is just like a little, I don't even know what the hell you would call it. Maybe a pipe that just shoots out the front of your gun about a foot, right? It's just this little pole that shoots out of the front of whatever you're holding, and you can only fire it twice. It's like a piston, and it fires twice out of the front of your gun, and then you have to let it kind of recharge. So you need to be super close to these enemies to hit them with it. It's a pain in the ass to use. It sucks, all right? It fucking sucks. It really does. After that, you do get, kind of what would be more like a pistol, and then something that's more along the lines of a shotgun. But again, the weapons, the mechanics, they don't feel very good. But again, this isn't a first-person shooter. This is an environmental puzzle game that has these kind of shooting elements in it. But like I said, you could remove the shooting elements and the enemies out of the game, and Scorn would essentially be the same game because it is these puzzles that are the main focus of the game. Scorn is also a very, very short game. I mean, 6, maybe 7 hours. And honestly, that time is kind of padded, right? Like the game, I wouldn't say intentionally or by design, but the way that the game is designed does kind of artificially inflate that gameplay time, that run duration, right? Because everything you do is slow. Everything you do takes a lot of time. You want to reload your weapon? Well, here's this fucking 8-second long animation you have to watch. You want to switch weapons? Well, here's this 8-second animation you have to watch. Like it slows everything down. The speed at which you can move is very, very slow. Even when you run, it's very, very slow. Sometimes you literally have to walk all the way to the end of a level or an environment just to find the thing that gives you basically the key to a door, to then have to walk all the way back to the other end. There's a lot of backtracking. There's a lot of trying to figure out how the machines work. So just a lot of walking around. Also, because the environments do admittedly all fucking look the same, you will spend a lot of time walking in circles saying, wait, was I just here? Hold on, is this the room I was just in? Wait a second, I think I was just here. Wait, hold on, is that the room I came from? Wait. Isn't this where I started? And yes, it will be where you started because you didn't realize you got turned around and just happened to walk back through all the areas you've just been through, but because you were going through them backwards, you didn't realize they were the same rooms you've already been in. Like, just a lot of that, right? So the game itself, if you were to just look at the puzzles and shit like that, the game itself is very, very small. It is a 6, maybe 7 hour pushing it game, but it is only that long because everything you do takes time. Everything you do is slow. And then if you happen to die, if an enemy kills you, which is not hard for them to do, then you've got to restart and then figure out, okay, where the fuck am I now? Also, because the checkpoints are just randomly and intermittent depending on what rooms and shit you're in, you might get sent back and be like, okay, hold on, where the fuck am I? Alright, what step am I on right now? Did I already complete steps 1, 2, and 3? Am I on step 4? Did it put me back at the beginning? And so now you have to take time trying to figure out, okay, now where the fuck in the process am I? Again, it all takes time. And I think they're selling this game for $40. And at the $40 price point, I would say, no fucking way. Don't buy this game for $40. It's a game that you're going to beat in maybe 6 and never look at again, right? There's no replayability in Scorn. Once you've solved the puzzles, that's it. You've solved them. It's not like the first person shooting mechanics are fun. It's not like it's fun to go kill the enemies. It's not. Once you've beaten Scorn, there's really no point in going back and replaying Scorn. So at $40, I personally would not buy it, and I wouldn't recommend buying it at $40. Now, if you have Game Pass, well, shit, try Scorn, right? It doesn't hurt you to try Scorn if you have Game Pass. If you don't have Game Pass, I wouldn't say, yo, get Game Pass so you can play Scorn, man. Like, you need to fucking get Game Pass right now so you can experience Scorn. It's not that kind of game. It really isn't. I wouldn't recommend getting Game Pass just to play it. And I wouldn't recommend buying it at $40. If you have Game Pass, though, shit, give it a try. You may enjoy it. You may not. But it is a game that I wouldn't recommend paying $40 for or getting Game Pass just to play. Now, if there are other games in Game Pass you want to try, and Scorn is one of them, well then shit, get Game Pass, and you've got multiple games you want to try. But I wouldn't say get Game Pass just to try Scorn, because it's a 6-hour game, right? But yeah, I mean, overall, I enjoyed Scorn, right? Like, it wasn't a terrible game. For the most part, it ran okay. I didn't see any, like, frame rate issues or bugs or glitches. The only thing that I would notice is, from time to time, the weapon in my hand, it would take like 8 or 9 seconds for the textures to pop in. Like, the entire game would be loaded, the entire level would be loaded, but for whatever reason, the thing I was holding in my hand was this muddy, ugly piece of shit, and then all of a sudden, after like 8 or 9 seconds, pop, here came the textures. That's really the only thing that I noticed in terms of issues with the game, and that's just a small issue. It's not game-breaking, it's not disruptive, it doesn't hurt the experience at all. So I will give the game that. It runs well, at least on the Series X. So overall, my experience with Scorn was a positive one, right? I mean, I enjoy environmental puzzles. I enjoyed the puzzles in Scorn. There is also just a lot of shit in the game that's like, what the fuck? Just because of the weirdness, right? There's some weird fucking shit in the game. Like that one time where I took this kind of fetus baby thing in a jar and I put it in this contraption in the wall, and then a piston came from above it and basically crushed the fucking thing with its eye popping out of its fucking head pretty much, and then almost turned it into like a juicer, and then pumped the baby juice into another container that I then needed to bring to a machine so I could give the machine the baby juice. I don't know a better way to describe what happened, but that was it, right? So, I mean, between just the weirdness of the game and the environmental puzzles, I enjoyed it. And if I had to give it a score, I would give it like a 7 out of 10. It's not a terrible game. Is it anything that's gonna win Game of the Year? No. Is it anything that's gonna set the gaming world on fire? No. Is it a game that most people are gonna forget by next week? Absolutely. It is one of those games. But, like I said, if you have Game Pass and you're interested in it, fucking go for it. It's not a terrible game. It just is a game that is not going to be for everybody, just in terms of the type of game that it is. And it is a very, very short game. So definitely not worth $40. If it was like 15, I'd say, yeah, go for it. Go for it at 15. 15 is not that bad for that game. But 40, no. And I wouldn't say go out of your way to get Game Pass just to play it. If it's the only thing in Game Pass you're interested in playing. But overall, not a terrible game. Like I said, I would give it a 7 out of 10. I think that's pushing it a little bit, but I think 7's about right. I think that's a fair score. And yeah, that's Scorn. It's a fucking weird-ass game that is not what most people are going to think it is just by looking at it. But not terrible. And that's all I got for you guys on this one. And that's the video, guys. Let me know what you think down in the comments. And remember, if you'd like to enter to win that PlayStation 5 Disc Edition, join my Patreon at the $10 level. I have a link to it in the description. And remember to like, share, and subscribe. And I'll catch you guys on the next SupaNova.